What are the incidents in Scarborough Shoal this week? You mentioned it earlier in your speech, but how concerning is it, the dangerous maneuvers of China, and also the presence of two warships, two U.S. Navy warships also here?
Okay, so the question on the warship, the U.S. Warships, let me address that first. That is a freedom of navigation operation, or what we call a FONOP, F-O-N-O-P, FONOP. And the United States Navy has always made it very clear, and the United States military overall, that we will fly, sail, and operate anywhere that international law allows. And that's called Straits Passage, or rights, or innocent passage. In this case, it wasn't through a strait, but innocent passage through whether it's through territorial seas or through an EEZ or through the high seas. All vessels are entitled to innocent passage. And that kind of innocent passage is essential, whether it's, and our warships do it to demonstrate that commercial vessels also must enjoy that same right under international law. There are trillions of dollars worth of commerce that pass through the West Philippine Sea, the South China Sea, and the Taiwan Strait. So exercising those freedom of navigation operations is essential to demonstrating to the world that the United States takes very seriously our obligation to uphold and defend international law of the sea. And with regard to what happened this week, that was on August 11th, near Scarborough Shoal, Bajo de Masinloc, that was just absolutely shocking. The video was outrageous to see. Unfortunately, that type of aggressive behavior out in the West Philippine Sea by China is not unusual. We've seen shouldering and ramming and water cannoning. We've seen the use of military-grade lasers virtually every month since I arrived here 3 years ago. I mean, there may have been some periods where it was toned down, but that was what we saw on video. But this type of activity is happening outside of cannon range all the time, simply because your fisher folk or your Coast Guard has some loss of life in that collision by the PLA Navy vessel and the Chinese Coast Guard vessel. We are certainly lament any loss of life that may have occurred. I was very heartened to see that the Philippine Coast Guard offered to render assistance immediately. They weren't taken up on that offer. The Philippine Coast Guard operates very professionally on the high seas and in the waters under their jurisdiction and in waters where they enjoy sovereign rights. So we were dismayed to see that this type of aggressive activity, illegal, coercive, aggressive, and deceptive activities on part of China continue to occur. Very sorry for the collision and very hopeful that perhaps this will be a watershed event that could lead to ratcheting down some of these aggressive actions out in the West.
So, Ambassador, just to clarify, with regard to the two warships, was that coincidental that it happened immediately after the incident with the Chinese?
I'm not going to get into any specifics on the part of what the Seventh Fleet does. Our operations out of Indo-PACOM are highly coordinated, and they do operate on a very specific schedule. But in terms of the timing, I'm not going to second guess what was happening there.
Okay, but definitely coordinated with the Philippine government as well.
The rules of freedom of navigation operations are very well established at Indo-PACOM. All right.
The private Chinese Navy, is that a abandonment of their planes of taxes because of the IPAC?
Well, again, we had U.S. naval vessels sailing through that area. The presence of a naval vessel in and of itself is not necessarily problematic. It's the illegal, coercive, aggressive, and deceptive actions on behalf of those vessels, on the part of those vessels, whether they're white holes or gray holes, that makes the activity dangerous and escalatory and uncalled for and illegal under international law. So with that, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.